The deaths were much worse. This was in April and the following months, April, May, and then into June. And within a month and a half, I knew it was a fraud and just a hoax. But we saw doctors being told by the feds there will be mass death, it's real. So they would go out and then scare everybody. And they weren't bad. They were repeating what they'd been told by the feds. So, yes, if that oil comes in, if a large percentage of it comes in and it starts backing up in the rivers and estuaries and it's off-gassing methane gas, we could have a serious problem. But we don't want the feds to overhype it or use the internet to overhype it, as they did the flu, to then get everybody totally afraid where they buy into a forced evacuation, 50 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles in, that will cause a collapse of the economy in those states and nationwide to a certain extent, and will be used as a political diversion going into the election. So let's go ahead and go over this report by Kurt Nimmo, where he quotes Matthew Simons, founder of the Ocean Energy Institute. Ocean Energy Institute founder says new hurricane will require Gulf evacuation. Thank God that storm deteriorated and didn't turn into a hurricane, is now broken up. But the season is just getting started, and they say it's going to be a doozy of a hurricane season. The U.S. National Hurricane Center has warned that a weather system near Cuba, centered between the islands of Acalans and Great Inagua, if I'm pronouncing that right, may move into the Gulf of Mexico this weekend, reports Bloomberg. But again, it didn't. But what happens with the next one? Reports Bloomberg. I am still worried about how it will move the oil slick into the coastal areas of Louisiana, Mississippi, meteorologist Jim Rollier said. We're going to try to get him on as well. In response to the approach of the tropical cyclone, BP workers in the Gulf of Mexico have stopped drilling a relief well and are preparing to evacuate, but they were able to stop that on Sunday. Reports the BBC on Wednesday, National Incident Commander Thad Allen said a tropical storm in the area would push back the timetable 10 to 14 days. Matthew Simons, founder of the Ocean Energy Institute, told Bloomberg on Wednesday that a leak near the Deepwater Horizon site may require an evacuation of the Gulf Coast and a hurricane strikes the area. Some 5 to 10 miles away is what NOAA research vessels have provided as a deep oil leak that is growing by the day and is very toxic oil, and its gases are very lethal, and basically if we have a hurricane now, we need to evacuate the Gulf Coast, Simons said. That's a pun, Simons. Simons also said BP has covered up the severity of the oil gusher. As it has told the truth, they would go to jail. And then we go over all of that. And it goes on June 24th, Matthew Simons, who's a member of the Council of Foreign Relations and subscribes to the Club of Rome's Limits to Growth propaganda, says he's also a proponent of peak oil. So it just sounds like he's out there hyping it. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be concerned. Just my opinion is this could be used as a diversion and as a distraction and as another federal takeover drill, just like the flu was, which they now admit is a fraud. British Medical Journal, EU 47-member board, Wolfgang Wodarg, who we had on. But we're going to work on getting both these individuals that are quoted in this article on the show as soon as we can. Okay, let me continue now with other news. I'm just going to quickly go through headlines now. This is from the Daily Mail. The internet license fee. Viewers who watch TV on computer could be charged from next year, hence government minister. That's out of England. The same thing is being promoted by the FCC here in the United States and the Federal Trade Commission. So they really are talking about this. Media Matters is engaged in more hoaxes. Right-wing, and that means George Soros says, right-wing bloggers push rumor that Mexican gangs have invaded the U.S. Well, in Texas and Arizona, they've got federal signs up in Arizona, 80-plus miles in, saying don't go in this national park, don't go in this state park, don't drive down this road. There is losses that is attacking and killing people. People are in fear in South Texas. There are Mexican troops coming across the border. That's San Antonio Express News. There are firefights happening. And they just come and say none of it's happening, kind of like Congressman Stark a month ago, In California, they said, sir, the things are falling apart in Arizona. 80-plus miles, is being taken over. He said, there's no border problem. Remember that quote? There's no problem. No problem. There's not a problem for him collapsing the United States. Remember a few weeks ago, Harry Reid told the reporters that there's no illegal aliens working in construction in Nevada. Turns out they have the highest rate in the country, 36+%. So there's no world government. There's no illegal aliens. There's no problem there. Big report by Kurt Nimmo at Infowars.com. Once again, corporate media turns on bloggers. We have the video clip at the bottom of the article. I don't have time to play it. But there is a whole bunch of mainstream news media. In fact, there's a bunch of these videos posted in here where they say we've got to have a gatekeeper on the internet. Why we've seen this poor lady that worked for the federal government with the white farmer comment, and the internet was able to do that, and we need to be able to shut them down because it's dangerous. What about the mainstream media lying about WMDs? What about the mainstream media trying to lie all the time? Again, they can't survive up against the alternative media. When I can have an operation that runs on 1/100th or less of what MSNBC does and have close to the same viewership and readership as some of their top shows, they've got a major problem. Continuing, I saw this report last week, but now there's more out on it from Salon, National Geographic, and others. Shrimp on Prozac are killing themselves. A study shows that drug traces in our water, in our wastewater, can affect marine life behavior. But can crustaceans have feelings? And in major prestigious reports, government studies find that shrimp are just swimming right up to birds and being eaten. They're overconfident. They've had their governors removed. They've had their compulsions removed. They've had their fear level. And this is what the studies when they approved Prozac in '81 had shown. That's why it's now on the drug insert. That, oh, yeah, most of the time you're going to be having a great time. It's a hallucinogen. It's in the psychotropic category. But some days, if you get angry, or you don't take the right amount of the medication, or you try to go off of it, or you mix it with other things, you will break and go in and kill 20 people at a school, or you'll chop your baby's arms off, or you'll put your kids all in their car seats, chain them in, and drive them off a cliff. In every case, they've always been on it. And I've talked to so many police. They say they'll pull up to a call, and there'll be a beautiful naked woman, in one case a cop told me about, cutting herself with butcher knives on the roof, and then she'll just jump off the roof, breaking her legs. She's on Prozac or a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And they found the same thing with shrimp. Shrimp will just come up and start attacking crabs when the crabs are just going to eat them. Or they will just come up to the surface and not be afraid. Their inhibitions have been taken away. And it goes on. Study shows that drug traces in our waste. Here's the National Geographic. Prozac pollution making shrimp reckless. Antidepressants' key ingredient is flushed into coastal water, study says. Well, yeah, think about it. Houston, 6 million people metro. You got upwards of 15% on Prozac. Most of it's passed through the body. You got all those other towns. All the major water supplies end up from the entire company dumping out in the Gulf of Mexico or on the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean out of these rivers and estuaries. And you've got the shrimp, and that's what the studies have found. They're just full of it. But then there's all the drugs and chemicals and fluoride and pesticides that are also running into the water. And the shrimp, there's also reports about the feminization of fish and frogs. Large percentages of them are bisexual, or they have both sexual organs. And remember, we're drinking this water too. We're not just taking these drugs, we're drinking it as well. So if it's doing this to shrimp and to frogs and to fish and to alligators that are turning into hermaphrodites, what is it doing to you? Well, we see all of these same symptoms in humans. But this is done by design. And AP did a study 2 years ago they found levels of serotonin reuptake inhibitors, Prozac is the main brand name of one of the variants, at levels many times higher than should be there from simple runoff from sewage. They're adding it to the water. And then I have Fox News clips promoting Prozac in the water and statins and lithium. So here's the news flash. They're already doing it, okay? There's no happy ending for shrimp exposed to mood booster Prozac. Remnants of antidepressant drugs flushed into waterways worldwide are altering shrimp behavior.